a 1-year engagement. My goal is to work myself out of a job. My goal is to work with a leader and implement changes that are measurable and observable and that they can carry on once the engagement is over. Having said that, we start with 360s and really taking a look at the perception that's held, how their stakeholders are experiencing them.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today we're joined by Nancy Berger. She is a keynote speaker, executive coach, and the founder of the Fear Finding Project. With a powerful blend of neuroscience, psychology, and real-world executive coaching, Nancy helps leaders overcome fear-based thought patterns, strengthen emotional regulation, and build cultures rooted in trust and clarity. Whether she's guiding teams through high-stakes communication or speaking on stages about fearless leadership, Nancy brings transformative insight that helps professionals show up with more confidence, resilience, and purpose. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you, Rexhen. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, Nancy. So I'd like to learn more about how this all got started. Like, what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
I was inspired to start coaching because at the beginning of my consultancy about 8 years ago, I was helping women in transition at that time, women who were facing a big change in life, either a change in status, leaving a marriage, children leaving the home, whatever it was. Because I was going through a big change myself, I found that a lot of women were reaching out to me and I was guiding them. And it felt like I was coaching them. And I liked the guidance part, but I wasn't really enjoying the subject matter. I realized that I wasn't really suited for life coaching as much as I was suited for corporate work, because I started to get some word of mouth referrals for corporate work. And I really loved working with leaders and teams and sort of helping to empower people to shift dynamics in the workplace. And then I got certified as an executive coach so that I could bring that skill set to bear. And I've stayed there, and I really do love that work.
And this certification, is it through ICF or is it another certification?
Yeah, no, I'm certified through Marshall Goldsmith Group, the Marshall Goldsmith methodology, which is a stakeholder-centered coaching operating system, if you will, and it works beautifully. And I really do believe in that whole approach that we have to kind of like change the perception. As a coach, I can go in and sit in the office of a leader and we can talk every week for 100 years, but change happens when perceptions are changed, and it's sustainable, and it can be carried forward.
So it's been, like we mentioned in the beginning, it's been a few years that you've started your coaching business. You mentioned about 8 years you started coaching, and then you did your certification, and then you started your coaching business. With the business itself, according to LinkedIn, is about 6 years and a few months more than that. Mm-hmm. Throughout this experience of running your coaching business, and during your what part of your coaching journey would you say is the most rewarding since you started your coaching business?
That's easy. The most rewarding part is when I see sustainable change in a leader. When I see a leader, when I experience a leader that I'm working with, identify a goal and then develop an action plan to meet that goal through behavior changes. And then when their stakeholders, rate them, grade how they're doing, give them feedback and feed forward on how they're doing, and they make they change the perception that's held about them. Their stakeholders see them as a different leader, as a better leader. That is the most rewarding thing, because it leads to a splash effect of change in organizations that can be carried forward. And as we know, that can change performance, productivity, bottom line, everything.
And when it comes to like the people that you work with, you're typically working with leaders and executives, right?
Yes.
Is there a specific like industry or demographic or maybe like a certain purpose that these leaders have that they want to work with you towards?
I would say not a specific industry or necessarily even a certain type of leader. By that I mean, how senior they are, how long they've been in a role. For me, I think it comes down to, if a leader wants to work with me, they are going to embrace being in a vulnerable space. I appeal to a leader that is open in rethinking the way they think. It's open and kind of digging into their own wiring and learning about how they've developed the thought patterns they have and how they show up. I like to have really transparent and honest conversations with my leaders. And if they're prepared to do that, and we can affect great change together, but it has to start with that.
And for any leader who's watching or listening, how does the program typically work? When they work with you, how does their transformation look like?
So leaders that work with me, it's typically, a 1-year engagement. My goal is to work myself out of a job. My goal is to work with a leader and implement changes that are measurable and observable, and that they can carry on once the engagement is over. Having said that, we start with 360s and really taking a look at the perception that's held, how their stakeholders are experiencing them. And then I debrief the leader on the information that I gather there. That sometimes is a little bit rocky, but that's where that vulnerability piece is so critically important. It's not about, getting defensive or trying to make excuses. It's about like, this is how I'm perceived. How do we change it? And then identifying goals, 1 or 2, developing an action plan to work towards those goals, and checking in with stakeholders every month, hearing what you're doing well, what you're doing not so well, how you can change moving forward, getting feed forward, as we call it, suggestions for how things can change going forward, and then sticking to the plan. This is incredibly effective, not super time consuming, but it has to be done consistently.
So is there, you'd say, a typical problem that you generally see these leaders working through, or it depends on like what problem they have at that moment?
It depends. It's all case specific, depending on, what their stakeholders are experiencing and how they're translating that in the 360s. We've dealt with a wide range of different things. It's very leader specific.
When you say 360s, what does that mean?
Sure. So I interview all of the stakeholders, the people that this leader works with on an ongoing basis, and their peers, managers, members of the board, team members, whatever it may be. And I ask a very simple set of questions to those people. What would you like this person to do more of, less of, start doing, stop doing? What are they really good at? What could they use some work on? And I just get a wealth of data, and then I create a themed report and anonymize this and then bring it to the leader. And sometimes the leaders are pretty surprised at what they learn, because I'm creating a space that's safe for people to be very honest. They know it's going to be anonymous, so I can get really great, valuable information. And it's about helping the leader be better.
And when it comes to your programs, are there specific program lengths, or so when someone works with you, do they have to work for a program like, let's say, 6 months, or they work on a la carte and whenever they need you, they will work with you?
No, a la carte doesn't really work, but it's not required. Typically, the engagements are a year. Why? Because it typically takes that long to get rhythm on this, to get to make sure that the change is sustainable, right? Because it's easy to change a behavior. it's hard to sustain that change. So typically it's a year, but I've worked with people for less than a year and longer than a year. But at about halfway through the engagement, whatever that is, I administer a survey to the stakeholders where they assess the improvement of the leader with a very simple -3 to +3 range, and we get a grade. And then that helps us know if we're going in the right direction. And that's also wind in the sails for the leader if they're making some change, and it fuels them to keep going with those monthly check-ins, to keep going with checking in and seeing how they're doing, feedback, feed forward, and so on. But I would say it averages out about a year.
And when it comes to my next question is more on marketing. So you mentioned earlier that most of it right now is word of mouth. Is there any other strategy besides like referrals that people can find you? I assume maybe LinkedIn or some other
Oh,
channel.
yeah. Oh, of course. I'm active on social. LinkedIn is the most active of the social media platforms for me. Very active on LinkedIn. I have a website where people can find me. It's very easy, nancyrburger.com. I get most of my activity engagement through LinkedIn, and I have a LinkedIn newsletter. And that, I'm in that algorithm. I've gotten some engagement there. So I'm meeting new people all the time, and people reach out to me there, and just like, Davis did. And so that's worked for me. I do try to, offer value in my content generation, and I have a strategy there. So that works well for me too.
I'd like to dig a little bit deeper on the strategy of the content. So how do you approach that for any other coach who is trying to figure this out?
My philosophy on content generation and strategy is this: it's always evolving. I'm learning as I go. I am by no means an expert in strategic marketing. But what I have learned is that if you offer value in your content, it's not I really try to avoid, it's not a personal reality TV kind of thing. It's not like, look what I did this, I did that. No judgment. That's not my preference. I like to offer some value to my readers. And I'm also learning that to bring yourself also, because what do we know as coaches? There are a gazillion of us. There are so many of us. And we provide a coaching experience in a unique way. And you want to make sure you share what your differentiator is. What is it that makes someone want to work with you instead of the next coach? So I try to bring value, but I also try to bring a bit of myself, my personal story and why it's important to me. And then I think it's important to identify your pillars, your content pillars. What are the things that you are are your through line through everything you do, and adhere to those, and then post consistently. I think that's worked well for me, and I think that's a good strategy overall.
I really agree with, especially when you say approaching with a value first, or offering value through your content to the audience that you're working with specifically. I also saw that you do a little bit of videos on your posts. Is there any team that kind of helps you with video editing, or do you have like staff that are working with you right now?
Yes, I have a phenomenal videographer and editor that do that work for me. I have a phenomenal writer that helps content in my voice, because that's really important to me. And a team assistant who makes my life possible, because she handles all of the posting. There is just a lot to it, but I always encourage people, like, they think it's an expense, and it's a but if you want to show up consistently on social media so that you get hooked into whatever the algorithm happens to be at that time, you kind of have to just stick with it and be consistent and bring it, frequently, so that people can follow you and see what you're about.
That makes a lot of sense, especially I think like delegating some of this work, like especially like video editing or working your way out in social media. especially when that is not something that you have a wide experience on,
Right.
or is something that you even like doing. And most of the
Right.
coaches that I've interviewed don't like to do that at all. Some of
No.
them don't even like social media. But when it comes to the coaching and doing even like the sales calls, is that something that you're doing it yourself, or?
Oh, yes. If I have a prospect call, a discovery call booked on my calendar, I do that. I take that very seriously because people are going to learn and engage if there's chemistry, if there's a good connection, if they feel comfortable. Yeah, absolutely. I would never delegate something like that. That's what I want to make the time for. That's what I want to concentrate on. So there's only so much you can do in a day. So it's important to be surrounded by people that can support you and your brand. And also, I would like to offer up that networking and building a community with your fellow coaches to support each other. It's always better to do it together. It's always better. I would much rather, I call them collaborative partners. I keep a list of people that I trust, that if I don't feel like a coaching engagement is the right one for me, I'm only too happy to refer it to a fellow coach who I trust and know their work. And I think that's super important. And in LinkedIn, especially, you can build out your network of fellow coaches as well.
I feel so too. So this is kind of like the vibe I've been getting from all the coaches that I've interviewed, even throughout this podcast, which is fairly new, but also last year doing my research. It's like the vibe is mostly is not a competition; it's a collaboration between coaches,
Yep.
and I really like that. It is so powerful not to have to compete, but actually, even like just like you said, refer people to one another, and then get people who refer back to you, because you cannot coach everyone, and yeah, different people might have different coaching needs. So even saying no to a client and moving that to another coach is a very good move.
Oh, it's really important to know which clients to say no to. It's really important. It's almost as important as knowing which ones to say yes to. Because if it's not a good fit, you're not going to help them, and that doesn't help you. So it's important to, and I would say competition, I would say differentiate yourself for sure, but don't compete. Because competing, it's like you're both at the blocks and you're running the same thing. Differentiate yourself. What is the thing that you bring that other people don't bring as a coach? And and niche down into that. And that will help you build your business.
And also could increase, like if you have a community of coaches that you work with, could increase that referral, because you're doing something so specific. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I know Nancy helps with this one, so
Yes,
I'll refer that to Nancy. So yeah.
exactly.
And is there any goals you're working towards with your coaching business, such as like, is there something new coming up in the next 1 to 3 years? How do you see your coaching business evolving?
As far as goals, my goal is the same ever since I began coaching, and that is to bring positive change. My real goal is to convince my coaching clients that they are in charge of their thoughts. It may sound a little sneaky, like I'm trying to backdoor it, but when we start working together on goals and how they want to be a better leader, very often we end up talking about their feelings about themselves and the reasons they show up the way they do. And so I really want to be able to convince as many people as possible that they are in charge of their thought patterns, and that those thoughts create the reality of their leadership, of their relationships, of their everything. And so that's really my goal. I think I'm branching out I've been a keynote speaker for a while now, and I'm really focusing on that because I can get that message out to a broader audience. But so all of the different service verticals in my business are woven together by that one thesis, that I'd like people to understand the power they have to change their reality.
So mostly unlocking that self-awareness of like, you are in control and you can take charge.
Yes.
Especially is a big impact knowing this from a leader's perspective.
Yes. And it's all backed by science. It's all backed by neuroscience and human evolution. This is not my opinion. So I really do like to weave that into my work with clients. And if they're really resistant on that, Sometimes I can convince them. So sometimes I can't, but it's a goal of mine.
Is there, throughout these years, have you made any investments in your coaching business that you feel that it was valuable to do so, meaning that it helped the business grow? That could be any coaching programs, masterminds, communities, or anything really that you put money on and you feel like, oh, you've gotten a good return on that investment. Is there any investment like that?
Yes, I've invested in my business consistently, even when it was super scary to do so, because I learned early on that without a support system, you make very costly mistakes. Trying to navigate a CRM that you don't understand or email marketing sequence that you don't even know what you're doing from the mechanic standpoint. And one time I remember I lost like 50 emails because I tried to do everything myself. So I say this all the time. Yeah, even when it's costing you to have support, it's not really costing you. The mistakes you make will really cost your business. So even in the beginning when I had a VA for a few hours just to support me so I didn't make those mistakes, over time it pays great dividends. And you can focus on developing your business instead of all the nitty gritty that it's not really your skill set, and it's diverting your attention from, okay, so that's number one. I have invested in my website. I am now completely redoing my website because over time, things change. As I said, I've branched into keynote speaking. That's a big part of my business now. And so I have to change my website. I do workshops and facilitations. You have to keep up with yourself, and you have to do that on your website. There's nothing like, what a turnoff if a prospect goes on your website and it's not tight, it's not reflecting what you do, or there's too many words, or it's noisy, or it's mixed messaging. So I've invested in my website. I invested in a certification to become a speaker. All of these things they cost something, but I try to look at it as you said, investment. It's investment in your business. And when, if I get a new coaching engagement, sometimes I'm like, okay, well, that means that I could do this or I could do that next year. So I just think it's critically important. If you get in scarcity mindset about, I can't do this until I make this much, you may be limiting yourself. That may be putting a roadblock ahead of you.
Sometimes, yeah, definitely got to put sometimes money in to get money out. And especially, like you said, not a lot of people understand the importance of how you appear to someone who is looking you up. You never know when someone is looking your LinkedIn. We never know when someone is looking your website.
Right.
The moment that doesn't look professional is like something done in 2010, old. It might even look like, oh, is this still in business, or is this?
Right.
So people want to make sure that they're investing. So they're investing in you. You should also be investing in yourself as well.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is there right now in your coaching business, what would you say is a challenge for you that you're trying to solve for next?
I think I get all of my coaching business through referral. So I don't have a great organic sales funnel there. That's been a challenge. So I'm focusing on content. I'm pivoting. I'm in the middle of a rebrand. I'm in the middle of a revamp of my website. So when I realize that these things are happening, I take action. And by the same token, it's like, these coaching engagements, I spend time with my clients. I'm not trying to, it's not transactional for me, like, trading. I'm just an hour here, an hour there. Usually I'm on retainer anyway with coaching clients because I don't want to sort of line item everything. I just want to be available. And so, it's a little bit of I'm walking that threshold between growing the business and also really being available the way I want to be for my clients.
And momentarily, you still take all the coaching calls yourself. You don't have any other coach that is working within your company. And it's mostly one-on-one coaching right now, right?
Yes. Stakeholder-centered, of course, I'm always available for the stakeholders to interact with me. I'm meeting with my leaders. Yes. One-on-one. And I do team coaching also. But I'm just limiting my comments to my one-to-one coaching.
I see. That makes sense. So whenever, let's say, a leader needs you to even work with their team, that is something that that they can get from you as well.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you so much again for coming today. Is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact?
I would go back to network with other coaches who share your sort of ideology and your approach so you can support each other, and that can also expand your reach. But I guess the thing I would say to coaches is what you're doing, you're trying to help a leader develop to their fullest potential. So keep that in mind. At least it works for me to keep in mind that I'm trying to work myself out of this gig. For me, the success is to see that the leader has changed their behavior, changed the perception that's held by their stakeholders, and it's a sustainable change that they're bringing forth in their organization. So that's the key. And when you can accomplish that, then you have the reputation of a coach who really makes a difference, really makes an impact, isn't, going in every week for 5 years to talk to a leader. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but some leaders might want that. But if you're looking to bring about change, that's kind of my philosophy.
I see. So you're trying to become part of a leader's journey, temporarily impact that change, and then leave, and then just drop the mic.
And keep your relationship with that leader, of course, and they may call on you for other things. Some of my clients call me to do other things for the company. That's awesome. But it would make me sad if the leader couldn't sustain the change that we sort of worked on together.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. It was lovely having you on the podcast. For anyone who's listening to this podcast and wants to find you, they can go into LinkedIn, Nancy Berger. They can go into your website, which is, let me double check, nancyberger.com, is it?
NancyRberger.com.
Oh, Nancy. Okay, I didn't see that. NancyRberger.com.
Yep.
We'll also put that within our description so that people can find you. They can also go into Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. They will find all of the links if they go into LinkedIn. That's what I'm looking at right now. Also your email, they can email you directly. Yep. Is there any other way people could reach out to you?
I think you've covered it all. My email is nancy@nancyRberger.com. So that's easy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.